So what's going on with this interstate licensing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, usually when we talk about healthcare in this country after the Affordable Care Act, it's about the demand side, about buying insurance, and that's certainly part of the equation. But it really is, when you talk only about insurance, treating the symptom. You really do have to look at supply as well. And in the United States, we have 900,000 physicians nationwide. Missouri has about 25,000, and the reason that you end up having a little bit of a constriction of access to care is that we prevent qualified doctors from easily practicing in the state. And it's not because of any sort of level of training. If you were to go traveling to, I don't know, Florida or Texas or really any other state, and you got hurt, the first thing that would come to your mind isn't that, oh, boy, I sure hope one of these doctors is licensed in Missouri. No, pretty much every doctor is trained about the same way, and particularly with technology like telemedicine, it really should be a priority to make sure that qualified doctors practicing in good standing in other states, are able to easily practice in the state of Missouri, because it not only has a benefit of increasing access, but it also allows for the potential for lower costs because you have more competition.
So I know lawyers have to pass the bar in Illinois to practice in Illinois, and they got to pass the bar in Missouri to work in Missouri. So you'd like to is that similar with doctors?
It is similar with doctors, but in fact, even with attorneys, they're moving towards this uniform bar examination where if you pass the bar exam in one state, you can easily transfer that license into another state, which is really positive. With law, of course, the law is a little bit different in every state that you might go to, so it makes a little bit more sense to have extra training and make sure that you know the proper court procedures for that particular court. With physicians, though, the only real difference is depending on if you have medical marijuana or those sorts of wrinkles, that you wouldn't be able to prescribe that kind of a medication. But other than that, pretty much every single practice that you end up seeing in any particular state operates about the same way as any other practice. And I think it really does make a lot more sense that you don't have different sorts of, health care in different sorts of states the same way that you would have with lawyers, where you have actual different laws, different procedures.
Yeah, so,
I think that it really would be progress.
So does a doctor have to take the full boards? Is it just filling out a form and paying your $50, or do they have to study and take a test?
It really depends on a different state that you go to. Sometimes a lot of the problem is a problem of cost. It can cost thousands of dollars to get the new license, which in some cases sort of acts like a barrier to entry, a sort of a cartelization that artificially restricts the number of doctors who can come in and actually practice in the state. That helps the doctors who might be in the state, even if their intent isn't to prop up their prices. It allows for a lower number of doctors to be able to practice in there unless they plan to practice in some substantive part and significant part in that particular state. A lot of doctors won't bother doing that. It's kind of like, imagine if your driver's license, every state that you drove to, you had to get a new driver's license. So, we have this interstate license in our pocket. You may end up choosing not to go travel to Iowa or Texas or those sorts. Or if you don't live in the state of Missouri, you may choose not to go to Lake the Ozarks. People make decisions based off the incentives that are before them. And that is one of the disincentives with the relicensing structure that we have right now, is that you have different rules in different states, which is obviously kind of a concern if you want to make sure that you're practicing and in good standing in all the states as a doctor. And so what you want to do is simplify what those rules are, make sure that they're uniform, and make sure that once you have your license in whichever state that you're in, that you can use that license pretty much every place. And like I said, the training for a doctor in all these different states is pretty much identical. We really ought to be lowering those barriers rather than keeping those barriers up.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you bring up. I know that a lot of people talk about selling insurance across state lines, which I don't think they've technically or thought that through, because if somebody passes something in Mississippi, then you'd have to cover it here in Missouri, or it would be like I could buy it in Mississippi and then sort of live here. So the states give up a lot of autonomy, good or bad, depending on where you sit. But in terms of licensing, it's kind of interesting, right? Each homeowner, or each time somebody builds a house, there are different codes, right? So there's a different code in New England than there is for Missouri, which is different than Arizona. So how much? But your point is, and I'm sort of thinking this through as I talk to you. If you have an appendicitis, you're going to treat it the same way, regardless of what state you're in.
Yeah, exactly. The underlying treatment options are pretty much uniform across the country. It's been well researched. That's one of the benefits of having a very professional and properly regulated medical field when you're talking about doctors. Right. But because that's also one of the benefits too, is that this isn't a matter of saying, well, we're going to try to import doctors from abroad where they have no standards whatsoever. No, we're talking about interstate licensing, where pretty much all the requirements are all the same. And again, this is so important, is that when we talk about insurance, yeah, of course that's part of the problem. But you really do need to address the supply side. In some cases, you're talking about doctor shortages. In some cases, you're talking about maldistribution and the doctors who are not necessarily poised to be able to help the patients readily because they're not geographically close. Well, telemedicine helps to fix some of that, and it also helps to make sure that the patient can get the care that they need.
So let's do it. Who's holding us back, Patrick? Let's do it.
Well, it's not a really old idea yet, I would say. It's kind of a new idea, so we don't know exactly who all our opponents might be. But what it seems like, and we've seen a little bit of this at the state board side, because a lot of the medical boards in each of the respective states like the sort of control and power that they have. And so they are one of the sets of opponents. They're trying to create a sort of statewide process to prevent really good interstate licensing. So that's one set of opponents, but that's probably about it. I mean, for patients, this is a really pro-patient reform. And there are lots of ways you can go about implementing it. As a state, you can basically say, you know what, if you have a license in another state, we'll accept it. Or you could even set up a reciprocity, regime where you say if another state will accept ours, we'll accept theirs as well. That would also be a step in the right direction and maybe the most politically feasible. But whichever route you go, making sure that patients have more healthcare options is good. It's good policy. I think it's good for patients and doctors alike, because even for doctors, if they want to expand their practices, they'd be able to as well.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's interesting. There you go. Let's see. We're making America great again. That's Patrick Ishmael. Patrick, where can we read more about this?
ShowMeInstitute.org. You can find us on Twitter @ShowMe and on Facebook.
There you go. Patrick, have a good week. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, you too.
Brenda Talent is on a much-needed vacation, and so I believe she's back, if not next week, the week after. Maybe her husband is in an undisclosed bunker somewhere planning his presidential run. Who knows? 8:47 here, Big Fat.